morning, good afternoon, or good evening. It's time to make something happen. Visit MakeSomethingHappen.TV to be a guest on our show.
Showcasing Grace Roberts, a media personality, author, voice artist, and entrepreneur. Producer Jerome Lee Brown, executive producer, Altogether Marketing LLC. This is a Mason Wiggins Media production. Power of branding. Logo, slogan, colors, website, customer service, product experience, company values, and you. Make a touchdown with your branding today with Altogether Marketing. Visit altogether.biz. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. It is time to make something happen. I'm Audrey Wiggins, your host, and our showcase today is none other than the Grace Roberts. And Grace is, she's a media professional. She's also an author. She's an entrepreneur. And she's here today to talk about her book as well as some other things that she's been doing. So we're excited to be able to showcase her and tell what you're doing.
Thank you, Audrey. Thank you so much. And if I may, applaud you for all that you do in the community. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. I appreciate it. It's humbling to be able to, to be a part, be a service.
Yeah. I'm an author, co-author, a collaborative. Myself and 6 other authors. 4 of us are here in Northeast Ohio and 3 are across the country. The title of my book is 2.6 to 1, Why You Must Shrink to Grow.
Wow.
So the book is a very transparent collaborative of all of our journeys to our successes, to where we are in our lives today. My title is it's figurative and it is literal. It talks about times in my life where I probably felt that I was going to shrink beyond return.
Wow.
And other times, I had to shrink, get out of my own way, and allow God to be God, and just to step aside and get out of the way. So that's where I came up with Why You Must Shrink to Grow.
It's a very interesting title because I almost think like in shrink it, ways.
Right.
Like sometimes we feel like we want to disappear, but
sure.
But speaking, that was more like a spiritual shrinking.
Absolutely.
So that you can see the bigger picture. Started here, the opening statement. You thought you were going to die. You have 2 scenarios. In your book.
I talk about a relationship that I was in when I was 19. I was almost killed at the hands of my boyfriend, and let me go back. When I was invited to write, I wasn't certain about what I wanted to write about, but I was very prayerful, and I meditated, and that's what came to my spirit to write about that, to write about some of the journey, but to share that specifically, to talk about that. So when I was 19, the person that I was with attempted to take my life, and he began to choke me. As I was writing, I was praying and asking God to take me back to those places, those emotional spaces as I was writing, so that I could include what I needed to include in here. So I talked about that time, that moment where I felt like he was going to choke the life out of me. And when I thought about it, and as I went back to that time and that space, I said, wow, it seems like a lifetime ago. But then as I was going back and thinking that he could have killed me, I could have lost my life. So thinking about that, and as he had his hands around my neck, and I was saying, no, stop, don't. And then I just kind of could feel myself fading, consciousness fading, and I was fading away and thinking, wow.
This is it.
Yeah, am I going to die? Is this it? At 19, wow. And then coming to later and realizing it was just like a dream. I was in shock, just the thought of it. I talk about that in the book. I talk about my relationship with my father, my earthly father.
Before you go there, because you're really speaking about this domestic violence issue.
Yeah.
You know, it's run rampant around
Yes.
the world, you know, but in
Yes.
our country, you know, we can speak to that specifically. And just to be, you know, in that, thank you for, you know, for sharing that. Because a lot of times when you say this happened when you're 19, a lot of these situations that we as women have found ourselves into, we were, you know, teenagers or young, you know, young women. Yes. Coming up, and these things that we kept ourselves. And I wanted to ask you, you know, before you go further as well, is that when you're writing and you ask God to put you back into that place so you can feel those emotions, so you can write this, maybe this happened before, but I was going to ask you, did it happen then? Was that a healing time and a time of forgiveness for you to this person, or had that already happened?
That happened many years ago. Many years ago. Yeah, I conversed with, and he apologized countless times. So I had to forgive to be able to move on. But before
that's
forgiveness,
important. I don't want people to miss that.
Right.
You have to forgive.
To forgive. On. You have to forgive.
That doesn't mean you stay there.
Right. And so I had to forgive. Now, a myriad of emotions.
Yeah.
It went from hurt and pain and anger to hate, to resentment, you know, so it was a process. You know, it took years for me to be able to say, I forgive you, because a lot of other things transpired during that year and a half in that relationship. And I talk a bit about it in here. But what I want to encourage to our listeners and someone that may be going through it now, there's always someone you can talk to. I felt at the time, Audrey, that there was no one to talk to. I was afraid to tell my dad because I thought he would throw it in my face and say, well, you shouldn't have been with him.
Right.
You know, I was just afraid. So I felt like I couldn't tell anyone.
Yes.
And to live in that place, in that space of fear. So there's always someone you can talk to and you can go to. So please, please don't be paralyzed by the fear of not telling someone. Please tell someone. There's always someone you can talk to.
Right. You know, previously you were talking about your Heavenly Father.
Yes, yes. Even in that, I wasn't in church at 19, but I had a relationship with God. I had a relationship with Christ. So I knew to pray. I knew to spend time with. So as I was trying to figure my way, because you know at 19 we know everything, right?
Right.
So I felt like, you know, even in that, as that happened, I said, Lord, there's a lesson to be learned in this. So just trying to maneuver my way and trying to figure out life and being very prayerful and cognizant of God's presence in my life and Him covering me.
Yes.
Even when I couldn't cover myself.
Profound.
Yeah, even when I couldn't cover myself.
You know, what was the turning point? Because sometimes, you know, that first incident is not always the turning point.
Well, what happened was when it happened, after everything happened, I called my mom. And I said, I need to go to the hospital. Can you pick me up? So I go to the hospital. The social worker comes in to talk to me about this. And I'm wondering, why is a social worker coming in here? I'm not going back to this relationship. Why is a social worker coming?
Right.
But this is something they had seen all too often. It was all too common.
Okay.
So she talked to me as if, and there had been points of abuse that up to that point. So we talked about that, and I told her, well, no, I'm not going back to this relationship. So, and he had a few of my personal effects, a few of my items that I wanted to retrieve from him after that. So I wanted to get my things,
yes.
But that relationship was done. That relationship was done.
So he allowed you to come and pick up your effects?
Yeah,
oh,
yeah. I mean, he was trying to,
mm-hmm.
you know, apologize and I'm mm-hmm. sorry and don't leave me, mm-hmm. but it was just to think about that. And I guess, Audrey, to look at that relationship, I couldn't have known what love was to allow myself to be in that relationship. So having to grow to love myself first. But God had to show me that because I didn't see that as an example at my home.
Right.
So trying to figure out what love was, and I'm in this relationship who I'm telling my dad, my family, he's misunderstood. My dad's telling me if his own family doesn't want to have anything to do with him, that's a problem. And here I am, like I said, 19, knew everything. So to look back,
we're fixers. We're gonna fix it.
Right.
And he needs me.
And little did I know, less than 6 months later, that he would have tried to take my life. Tried to take my life.
Wow.
So I talk about that.
Yeah.
And it was very hard for me too because I'm a very private person.
Yeah. So it is definitely you're talking about being transparent.
Yeah. So I'm very private, but I felt that God allows us to go through things and experience things for others.
Yeah.
So I knew that at some point I had to share it.
Okay. And
I just didn't know when, and then this came about. This opportunity presented itself, and I said, "This is the platform to do so."
All right. Well, we're glad you did. And there's another point of the book where you talk about, life and death. Again, as of the very beginning.
So, thinking about our lives, and I was a preemie. I was 2 pounds 6 ounces. I was born at 6 months. And my weight dropped to 1 pound, and the doctors did not think I was going to live. And I was at the McDonald House here in Cleveland, and my parents would come to the hospital. Now, this is their account. They would come to the hospital every day to see me, and their prayers, I guess, is what got me through. I was in the incubator. I was incubated for so many months, and my doctor's name was Dr. Dennis Smith.
Okay.
And he would pay my parents to allow me to stay there so he could monitor me. And at that time, preemies, that was unheard of. Preemie babies didn't live. And then at 6 months, and then to go from 2 pounds 6 ounces to drop to 1 pound.
Exactly.
Right. How light is that? You think about that.
So you're probably like this big.
So I knew that. I said, okay, God has a purpose, because here I am, 20 plus something years later, we'll say. And I said, okay, God has a purpose. So thinking about that too, even in that, and my dad called me Hope. My dad, not my mother. My dad.
So that's where that comes from.
Yeah. Yeah, so thinking about that and understanding that, there's purpose, there's much work to do. So even in that, even in going through what I went through, to be able to share, there is hope, there is someone that can help you. So please reach out to someone, talk to someone. That is so very important. And what I've found, Audrey, that I've talked to women young and old that have gone through something similar. And that's part of the reason why I share that in this, not realizing that, okay, you're going to help free people. You're going to open something up for people, because people have come to me and I said, wow. So I'm beginning to see that, okay, I didn't do it in vain. I did it. I had to share it.
Yes. It was part of your life's journey.
Yeah.
Your purpose that you had to share that with us. And what else is in your chapters? So it starts off that way, and you talk about the relationship with your dad and some other things.
Yeah, you know what? Like I said, my dad was from the South.
Okay.
He was from the Jim Crow South. So he came here to the North because he was not he wasn't a servant type of man. He was a very strong, very proud man. His father was a sharecropper, and he came to the North for a better life for himself. So he came, he brought his brother, he said for his brothers, his nephews, family, friends, to help them have better lives too. And my dad had a strong work ethic, an amazing work ethic. He read, he was up at the crack of dawn reading, so he was always informed. But he had demons from his childhood, from growing up. And so as a result, he became an alcoholic. So I talk about that in the book too. And it's not bashing, but it's sharing my journey, because ironically, I was a daddy's girl. So outside of the drink, I was a daddy's girl, but God allowed me to see a softer side to my dad later on. Before he passed, I got to see the softer side of my dad. So yes, Daddy was very abrasive. He was very, very brash, very harsh, but that was, his life shaped him.
Yes, absolutely.
And the drinking was a mechanism to cope. But him just, I got to see the softer side and got to see who my dad really was beyond all of the layers. I got to see a softer side of my dad.
That's a beautiful story.
And it just, our relationship, God restored, because I thought as I was growing up, because my dad was so harsh, he couldn't love me, that's my dad, he couldn't love me, speaking to me in such a manner and talking to me and verbal abuse, but he did what he knew to do. But God changed my heart.
Okay.
And I fell in love with my dad anew. It was like a new relationship. And I just thank God for that. Because when I got old enough, I said, well, Daddy did what he knew to do.
Yes, that's it.
And Lord, I want to see a softer side of my daddy. So I did. And I talk about that. I talk about his last days. He died, he had cancer. And how I wanted to wash his feet. And Daddy said, no, you're not touching my feet. But I thought about him when he was a kid. He told us a story that he gave his shoes to his brother because they didn't have shoes. So he would stand up against the wall with no shoes, tattered clothes, while the rest of the kids played.
Yeah.
So his brother could have shoes. So he had very, very rough feet as a result of that. But I just wanted to serve him. So I said, Daddy, may I wash your feet? And I talk about that too, because it's just me wanting to serve. And he's looking at me like, girl, get out of me, get away from me. No, you're not touching my feet. But I guess after so many times, he said, okay. But it was just something to say, Daddy, I want to serve you, because you've served so much. And my heart to serve, I thank God for it, because my dad, he served. You know, that's what he did. He loved people. He was always there to help. So I thank God for that and the heart to serve. So
Can I share something?
yes.
I washed my father's feet
Yeah.
during his last, years here, or last,
Wow.
year. So that
Wow.
was I could just, when you're talking about your dad, I could see the whole picture of him sitting in my
Wow.
sister's apartment there, and I'm washing
Wow.
his feet and rubbing his legs.
Right, I had this peppermint lotion,
That's
Audrey,
precious.
and this peppermint body wash, and I was like, okay, Daddy, you need to try this, it's good stuff. But I just wanted to serve him. So he finally gave it and said, okay, girl, you can wash my
She
feet.
is not good.
So just to say, I washed his feet and put his feet, put him back up under the blanket and kind of covered him up.
But that was a spiritual experience,
Yeah.
as well. Jesus washed the disciples' feet.
Yes. So it's just about serving, and I'm grateful that I could do that and that God used me in that time.
Because then he was able, at that point, to receive love.
Mm-hmm.
Because somebody, like your dad, during that time and stuff, it's hard for them, because my parents came from the South, as well, sometimes to really receive
Sure.
love. And even in their giving love, it's almost like, if you give too much or something, like you're giving yourself away or something, bad's gonna happen because, you trust these people. They don't,
Right.
It's just all mixed up there together, and it's just such a horrible, thing to have to go through.
But that was my dad,
Yes.
in a nutshell.
Yeah.
It was hard for him to show emotion.
Mhm.
So here I am, a little girl with my arms around his neck, trying to kiss on him.
He's like, oh God.
And he's like, yo,
Get
you
off
my
me.
sister that right. He's like, get away from me, But he couldn't receive that.
Yeah.
It's not something that he knew to receive, because it's not something he
Yeah,
really
but inside of it,
experienced.
he was melting.
Yeah, because my sister and I, we loved our dad. We loved him to pieces.
Yeah. Wow, that's awesome.
We were daddy's girl. That's funny. It's like, ironically, I was a daddy's girl,
Mhm.
even through all of that. You know.
Yes. So there's a tale of two folks in there. You learn how to love two different people. And I'm not saying any mental health thing, but
Yes.
the harshness part, and so you learn that, and then now, so that you can receive, better love.
Absolutely,
Right.
absolutely.
Yeah,
And
so
I'm grateful.
over the years,
You know,
your current.
I just, being in a place of unforgiveness
Mhm.
is painful and it hurts. So I just wanted to be in a better place, in a better space for myself, but not only for myself, for my dad.
Yes, but you touched on some very powerful issues: domestic violence, domestic abuse, forgiveness, love. Racism. Growing up in the South.
Yes.
It's some tough things.
Right,
that
we
you
think we
covered.
experienced
Right.
racism, but I can only imagine what my dad experienced.
Yes.
And that shaped him.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, and everything that he did.
Yeah.
And are there any other
points like that would come out in your chapter? Any other? Other we talk about the birth too, so
Yeah.
parents
I talk
with
about,
children.
at the end, I write a prayer to my dad, just thanking him, for giving me, my mannerisms, the dimple in my cheek, the sense of humor, the heart to serve. So, I look at myself and say, oh, I'm gonna see my dad, thank you for the eyes, thank you for the characteristics and the facial features, thank you. But just he was a servant. He loved to serve people. And I do as well.
Yes.
And that's the mantra I live by. Like you do what you do. The mantra that I live by is at your service. How may I serve you?
Yes, yes.
Because leaders have to be servant leaders.
Absolutely.
You have to
Yes.
serve before you can lead.
Yeah. How did you come up with the title of this?
Well, one of my business coaches, interesting, we were on the phone and I thought, okay, give me a title. I don't know what I want to call it. Thinking living in purpose on purpose. He's like, no, that's boring. Everybody does that, right?
Yes.
So, thinking about the literal sense of the fact that I was born so small, and then my weight dropped. So the 2.6 to 1. I prayed about the title, and the title came to me. I woke up in the morning, and the 2.6 to 1, 2 pounds 6 ounces to 1 pound. But the 2.6 to 1. Versus the 2 pounds 6 ounces, I said, well, that just kind of that's something that people will that will grab attention.
Absolutely.
What is a 2.6 to 1?
Yes,
so that
yes.
came to, and then why you must shrink to grow, because we all shrink to grow. Some figuratively, some literally, but you shrink to become greater. Your greater self. So that's where I came from. Well, with my business coach, and we discussed it. So that's where we came from with the title.
Awesome. So where can we find your book?
Well, it is on Amazon.
Okay.
It is on Amazon.
2.6 to 1.
Yeah,
okay.
Definitely. You can contact me as well, 216-673-6429. I always have copies. I just worked on a revision as well to add a few things too. But I pray that it touches your spirit, but not only my story. The other women are amazing, accomplished women in their own right. Okay. So to be a part of and to be invited to be with such a great company, I was truly honored. So their stories are really, really profound, really powerful.
Yes, awesome. So I'm glad that I know we opened up seeing you were media professionals. You're on WNWV.
Cleveland Smooth FM 107.3 The Way.
Oh, there's that voice. There's that voice.
Community Affairs Director, morning show co-host. I love what I do. I'm grateful. How many of us can say, they love what they do, and I know you love what you do because it shows. And I love what I do. I don't take it for granted. I thank God for the platform.
Yeah, very blessed.
Indeed.
Yes, definitely. Thanks for allowing us to be part of that even.
Yes.
Some other entrepreneurial type things. I just want to share how you're helping people or helping individuals or businesses. Yes.
Well, but most importantly, what value can I bring?
Right.
For my customer, for my client, for anyone that I'm serving. What value can I bring to that customer? I do a few things. I do voiceover work. Grace Roberts LLC, Voices of Grace, is my voiceover company. I am the principal for that. I do voiceovers, commercials, audiobooks. I speak, keynote, mistress of ceremonies, hosting. So I do all of that. I share all of those duties, and I love that. In addition to another business that I do on the side, we work with people and help them save money on essential services that they use every single day, and perhaps make money in the process. There's a gentleman that I work with who's very, very closely. He mentors me, and he works with business owners, helping them, again, save money on the essential services that they use in their businesses every day, and create a rebate on those very same services. So I do that part-time as well.
Okay. You're busy.
But
again, all of our right. The pot color together.
Yes.
Or red. Some people have red pot, right? And teal color.
Yes, indeed.
Oh my goodness. Yes, for sure. Y'all want, so just, I'm excited to hear about that,
Yes.
as well, what you're doing, but still in a serving capacity.
Yes, absolutely.
And just because you're doesn't mean that you don't, receive remuneration or whatever, but,
Right.
serving, but we don't want to be out here pounding and,
Right.
trying to force people to do things. It's just like, is there a benefit?
Right.
To whatever, that you're offering, you're helping people to
Absolutely.
do, so I can apprappreciate that. Yes, I
Definitely.
didn't look back on some beginning years,
Yeah.
I wasn't always like that.
Right.
It was about what I was trying to get, what are my goals?
Right.
To get those goals, I gotta do this, and
Right.
this.
And I would like to, however I can support you in what you do. I love what you do, and like I said, you serve in such an amazing capacity. So however I can lend my hand to help you too.
Wow, thank you, Grace.
Thank you,
That's
Audrey.
awesome.
Thank you.
You're making something happen and trying to help me make something happen. You're very positive and
Yes.
inspiring.
Absolutely.
Yes, thank you. As we come to the end of our showcase for you today, Grace, is there something that you want to leave us with, a statement, something from your book?
Well, you know what? Life is, we have ups and downs in life, but life happens. And what we do with it determines the outcome. So George Fraser, the founder and CEO of FraserNet, the networking guru, I admire him so. He's legendary. He's known across the globe.
Yes.
And he has told many of us, and he says, to stay the course. So George Fraser once told me to stay the course. So I encourage you to do the same.
Awesome. That's a great way to end it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much,
Yes,
Audrey.
definitely, yes, absolutely. So we're excited and glad that Grace Roberts stopped by to do a showcase with us today, and hopefully you have gained some empowerment from what she had to say so you can go out and make something happen, making a difference in your community. Let's make a difference in the world.